Hello, North Star Big Book. This is Carly Israel, recovered alcoholic. I am recording again after much God pushes and nagging and a few awesome women in AA that were like, you must do this. So here we go. I promise that it will not be fancy. You will hear in the background, like you do now, washers and dryers and random sounds. And I'm not even going to do the fancy intro extra. We're just going to go raw, big book style, the way that I love it. You cannot find me on social media. You cannot follow me anywhere, which is lovely because I found that I was losing touch with who I was. And all that I really care about is connecting with the people I need to and being of service. So that's what we're going to be doing. Same way that I did it before, only it's 2026. The first time was 2017. And here we go. I've opened my book to the blank first page. In my book, it is no longer blank. I remember that when I first opened this book, I was told that I need to look at that blank page to consider what I know about Alcoholics Anonymous, even if I had a background, which I did in Alcoholics Anonymous. Oh, I forgot to say, my sobriety date is January 27th, 1999. And I am recording January 12th, 2026. So here we go. I have written down at the top of the first blank page on the page that's titled Alcoholics Anonymous. At the top, I wrote, in order to effectively carry this message, we have to be living it ourselves. In order to effectively carry this message, we have to be living it ourselves. And there's two things that I want to just comment about that. This message that we're referring to is the message that's found in the pages of the big book, specifically working the steps. And then the we have to be living it ourselves is just the only thing that's ever worked for me in AA that's attractive to me still to this day is I don't want to be told anything about how to do something from someone who has not done it or is not currently doing it. And it also makes me a better sponsor and human to carry a message that I'm currently practicing and living. Then it says Alcoholics Anonymous, and above that I wrote, if you do not change, you do not change. And that is one of my favorite simple, that's from Kevin Mooney, pass that on to me. If you do not change, you do not change. And that's also a good tool if you have a sponsee that just keeps complaining about some person that they keep going back with or some situation that they keep stepping in. Just simply saying, if you do not change, you do not change, and reminding us all that the change that we're looking for requires effort and action on our part. Underneath the words Alcoholics Anonymous, I wrote the sole purpose, and soul spelled SOLE, meaning the only, the number one purpose, not one of. The sole purpose of an AA group is the practicing and teaching of the 12 steps. Is the practicing and teaching of the 12 steps, which means at my home group and at the groups I am choosing to go to, because I can't even tell you how many meetings there are now. I don't even know post COVID and what's available online and in person. But I choose to go to meetings where we are talking about the big book. We are talking about the steps. We are sharing our experience, strength, and hope with that because I don't want to hear a drunk-along anymore. Number one, I can't really relate to that other than the memories. But number two, I know how to get ridiculously drunk. I need to learn and keep being reminded of how to practice and teach the 12 steps effectively. On the bottom of the page, I wrote, my job is to help a newcomer see what their options are. My job is to help a newcomer see what their options are. And that is not the same thing as telling them what to do. Couple of things there. If the sponsee or the new person or anyone relies on me telling them what to do, then I'm placing them in a position to rely on me rather than teaching them how to look at their options, their inventory, how to go to their higher power. I'm going to refer to higher power as God most of the time here just for ease, and how to, do what the book says, which is if you don't know what to do, to wait and pause and ask. So the 10th step, practice in doing that with another person, is really helpful in this area because my sponsee is able to kind of walk around the table after I've laid out my inventory and help me see something that I might not see. And they're looking at it hopefully from not an emotionally attached angle. Okay. Also, you do not have to do this. Obviously, you don't have to do anything, but I have my name written down in the book. I have my sobriety date. And then on the left page where it's blank, I put two pictures of my three children. My three children are only alive because of AA. They are born to a sober, recovered mother who understands that there is absolutely nothing I will not do to make it so they never have to know what it's like to live in an alcoholic home. I have their pictures up there. The pictures I have of them, they're really young in them. My kids are now like 19, 18, and 16. But above the pictures, I wrote, "This is what I stand to lose." And it's a really important reminder because I actually have way more to lose today, 26 years and 11 months sober, than I did when I walked in the doors. Then I only had to lose my life and my family, but today it's unbearable, the thought of what I will lose. Okay, next page is the page that says Alcoholics Anonymous at the top, and then it says the story of how many. That's the page. So this page has got a lot written on it. It's very possible you might only make it to this page. Also, I am working really, really hard on no longer apologizing in AA or when working out of the book or sharing the message. I'm no longer going to apologize if I go over an allotted time in terms of like a lead, as long as I'm staying on topic. If I don't get too far in going through the book, because like, what's the rush? There's no race. And I'm really working on that because who cares? The goal is to teach and practice the steps out of the book, and that's what we're going to do. So at the top of the page, I wrote the word recover, and this brings me back to being brand new and meeting the girl that was my sponsor in Cleveland. And she was scary. She told me to go to her apartment and to bring a highlighter and a pen and my big book. And she had a dictionary on the table, and I had to look up all the words. And the first word that she had me write down is the word recover. And it means to save from loss and restore to usefulness. So to save from loss and restore to usefulness is the first definition. And the second one I have written down is to regain strength, control, composure, and balance. To regain strength, control, composure, and balance. And I'll just walk you through what this looks like and what it looked like and what it still looks like. So I'm a very visual person. You'll hear me talking all the time about, experiences and things that I can connect the ideas with to make them come alive. I love the concept of saving something that no one is using anymore or has been deemed unusable or trash or just not worthy of, attention. And I specifically love doing that with old items and then like repurposing them because I consider God to be like the great repurposer. I see it in my own life. God takes situations that I would love to just remove from my memory and uses them to help others. And while God definitely doesn't make all the choices in the world and make all the things happen that happen because of my understanding and free will and everything, I've seen over and over how God will use something that I do not think is necessary to even repeat and use it in a way that will be useful to someone else. So to save from loss and restore to usefulness, I do that a lot, specifically with like furniture, wooden furniture. It can't be fabric because I don't want someone that peed on it. But I usually make my kids stop. I pull the car over and they make them get out and bring something in, a little table, a chair, a dresser, and I save it from loss and I restore to usefulness. I just recently did that with a really cool metal drawer piece that was rusty and dirty and cobwebby. And I spent weeks cleaning it, vacuuming, painting, restoring, and now it's in my room and it's being used. It's literally my nightstand. It's where my phone and my glasses and my alarm clock and my books and my lotions and my chapstick go. And I love it. And it's all the more precious to me because everyone else kind of thought it was garbage. And I love that that's what the 12 steps do to us. And today I am restored to usefulness. And then the second part about recover, about regain strength, control, composure, and balance is just another reminder for me that when I got to you guys, I had no strength, control over nothing. I was not composed at any moment. I would just outburst, zero filter. I mean, it's still not that great, but it's gotten better. And my life was completely unbalanced. Um, then it says the story of, and above that I wrote, what is AA? Question mark. So I love the way that we go through the book, the way that it's taken by people that took me through it, and all the way to the beginning of AA because it's so simple and it makes it so I can go to any page and teach someone something out of the book. And no matter how bad things might be in my life during that specific moment where I'm meeting with somebody or where someone needs help, as long as I can read, I can open my book and help them. And if I can't read, which not everyone can, I can put a podcast on like this or someone else's podcast and we can sit together and study the book together. It is not something I believe in that you go through it once and you're done. Everyone's got many, many beliefs. I no longer ask or care. I just know that any one of us who were full blown late stage alcoholics, dying alcoholic deaths, any one of us doing any spiritual work, regardless of how we're approaching it, bravo. Like, who cares? Like, who cares if it's right or wrong? The only thing that I truly care about is if someone comes to AA and asks for help and they're told by someone that they're not ready to do the work. Like, that's the only thing I have an opinion about, just because that's like exactly the opposite. And see, there's one of the sounds of the 4 cats I currently am. I say I'm a grandmother to because my son is taking them with him one day. 4 cats, 1 dog, 3 boys. I get to. So here we go. The story of how many thousands of men and women have recovered from alcoholism. Pause here for a second. Underline have recovered. If you're using a highlighter, this is a beautiful moment to highlight the word recovered. And underneath that, I wrote what we are recovered from, that the book is promising us. And the reference it's going to make is going to be in the following pages when it defines alcoholism in the doctor's opinion. And underneath recovered, I wrote from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. From a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. That is what we are recovered from. So I'm going to pause for a second and share my experience with this word because I once got in a lot of trouble about it. I introduced myself as a recovered alcoholic today. I know everyone has got a lot of opinions. I don't really care about opinions. I'm just focusing on what the book says because even if someone's well meaning, it might not be what was meant to be relayed from Alcoholics Anonymous. The book is pretty clear. I mean, We're not even on a page number. We're not even on an appendix. We're not even on a pre-Roman numeral. There's nothing. And it says we're covered. This is the first promise in the book. It says that thousands of men and women have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body when it comes to alcoholism. And we're going to get into that for the rest of the time. So, what does that mean? So, obviously, the most basic meaning is that I no longer physically require alcohol. That's the physical allergy. I can't put it in my body because I no longer physically require it. It's no longer in my body in any form at all. The mental obsession, which is the main part of the disease, I no longer believe the lie that I need alcohol or drugs to get through the day or get through a hard time. I just want to clarify that does not mean I don't want them on occasion. I am an escape person, a runner, a suicide. I'm out, I'm uncomfortable. Like, I never can tell if I have a super high tolerance for pain or a super low tolerance for pain. Because, like, how am I supposed to know what your pain feels like to you? All I know is I don't like my pain and I want it to be over. And I usually go through my list pretty quickly of all the things I can do to make it go away that are not AA approved. And none of them will get me what I want, anyways, or make the situation better. But I no longer believe the lie that they will, and I used to. The key part of the definition that's under recovered about the seemingly is that word seemingly. To us, to me, it seemed hopeless. My mind and my body seemed hopeless. It seemed hopeless so much that it wasn't something I thought might be. It was absolutely certain, so certain that I tried taking my life when I was 6 days sober. The cool thing about the seemingly part is to people who are recovered and working the steps in the program and are actively, alive and doing this work sober, they look at someone like me in untreated alcoholism, whether I'm drinking or not, and they, even if I believe the lie that there's no use, they see me actually in the best place I could possibly be because I'm possibly in a place where I'm so hopeless and powerless and miserable that I might finally be willing to follow instructions. And I can tell you that so far, maybe it'll change and evolve, anything's possible. I'm very unwilling to follow instructions unless it will make me uncomfortable to not. And that means that I don't have to introduce myself as a recovering alcoholic because if after 26 years and 11 months of doing this work every day, meetings, prayer, hitting my knees, morning, night, 11th step in the morning, 11th step at night, 10 steps throughout the day, going through inventories, listening to sponsees inventories, being of service, all the stuff. If I'm still dealing with a hopeless state of mind and body, meaning I'm still like trying to get better from that, that's depressing. I want someone who says, no, we found a way out. We no longer have a body that can't process alcohol because we don't put it in it. Now, just to be very, very, very clear, my body cannot process alcohol properly or normally. So the way I deal with that is I don't put any alcohol or drugs in it. And that also means when I go to a doctor, when I have surgery, when I go to a celebration, it is when I go to a restaurant, it is my sole responsibility, no one else's, to make it very clear that I'm allergic. If you say you're an alcoholic, they might not always get it. If you say I'm allergic to alcohol, people are really scared of allergic today. They're finally like, oh, that's not safe. So that's the best way. And even with all of that, I've still had it where they didn't believe it. And I had to ask someone else and they're like, oh yeah, there's alcohol in there. And then I'm like, please take it away. So it's my responsibility. And that is the promise. The book promises us that we will no longer require alcohol, but that also means I can't put it in my body. Secondly, I no longer have a mind that believes that the only solution is to slowly kill myself by using and shutting myself off from God and shutting myself off from you. I will no longer have the status of recovered as soon as I stop doing the work. It is something that isn't taken care of, and then you just get to coast. And unfortunately, I've had the opportunity and sacred privilege of watching more people than I've ever thought I would know personally in my phone die with double digit plus sobriety because they rested on their laurels and stopped doing the work and thought that what they did in the past was enough and will come and announce their anniversary. And I can't stay recovered if I'm not doing the daily work. um, Mine's a third edition. I have seen the fourth edition with the modem to modem, which is so cute because I don't even think they even have modems. I don't know. That's literally how far I've gotten. I made a circle of like the coin circle with the triangle, our ancient spiritual symbol. It is also a math symbol that I remember learning in high school. The triangle means change. So whenever I'm writing, whether it's for work or about myself or taking notes, I write the triangle instead of the word change. And I think it's pretty cool that that's our symbol. It's no longer like officially our symbol because someone like didn't copyright it or whatever, but the symbol is the triangle, right? And each part of the triangle has a different important legacy. So we're going to identify what those are on this page. Like I mentioned before, this page is heavy with content. So I draw the circle. I like make it like the size of like a $50. And on the left side, on the inside of the circle, on the inside left of the triangle, I write the word unity. And that on the outside of the circle, I write 12 traditions. And the 12 traditions are what keeps the AA group really together. And the other beautiful thing about, not the other, like there's so many, but one of the beautiful things about AA is that there's someone for everyone here, and there's different people here that do different things better than others. I work the steps, like that's one of the areas that I can do well. Like I can take someone through the steps, I can take someone through the book, I can share my experience, strength, and hope, and God can use me and connect through me. I'm not great at understanding the traditions because I never studied them. I know that they're important. I don't know anything about world service other than thank God we have GSRs for every group. Thank God there's people that do all the things they do in all of the areas that I don't do things because I can't do everything and either can they. I don't make good coffee, but I can set my room up really well at the end of my home group. I can greet, you know, I'm not great at putting all the chairs on like those scary chair like contraptions that like mostly men do it like really fast and like God bless them. And so like everyone's got their own thing. So unity is about the traditions. The right side of the triangle, I wrote on the inside the word service. And service can look different across the board. There's so many different ways of service. And on the side, I wrote 12 concepts. And those are the 12 concepts for world service. On the bottom, on the inside, I wrote the word recovery. That's the base of the triangle. And on the outside, I wrote 12 steps. And I wrote on the side or the middle or wherever you need to, I wrote the words 3 legacies. And I wrote equals 3 parts of our recovery. 3 legacies equals 3 parts of our recovery. And then in parentheses, I wrote need for balance. So just like a 3-legged stool, if one of the legs was wobbly, I wouldn't be able to sit still. If one of the legs was broken, I couldn't put my coffee on it. It would fall right off. The whole thing would break and it would be thrown out. And then maybe somebody would come by and they'd restore it from loss and recover it. So in order for us as an AA group to be whole, we need a balance with this, which is why it's awesome that we have the we of the program, because no one could do everything. The last thing I have written down on the bottom of the page, and it's just something that I was told to do, and I always pass on what I was told to do, is I wrote the word home group and then I wrote service position. And so now I get to cross that line and I get to update it. So my new home group, if you're ever in Cleveland, is the gazebo group. The gazebo group meets on Sunday mornings at 9:30 Eastern. It's attached to Stella Maris in the cafeteria. It is about 80 to 100 plus rowdy, happy, loud morning alcoholics. There's so much sobriety. I call the second row to the left is sobriety row. There's 3 members of AA in just that row that have well over 100 plus years of sobriety together, and they're just like besties. I like going there because I like to feel like a new person there because everyone's got so much time. And then there's also tons of brand new people, and the energy is great. And I love, love, love the meeting. And then my service position there is I set the room back up to turn it back into a cafeteria. And the reason why it's important to have these 2 things is we need to be accountable. And I can't speak for everyone, but I can definitely acknowledge that when I got here, I did not know how to be accountable. I did not know how to be on time. I thought it was cute, and I actually called it Carly time. And Carly time was like 10 to 15 minutes after I said I was going to be somewhere. And I was in AA newly sober, and I was somewhere late again. And a woman in AA told me that wasn't cute, it was selfish, and that she has a life and she's making space and time in her schedule to meet with me. And if I'm late ever again and I don't call, that Carly time will have ended because we will no longer be working together. I was also reminded of that when I spoke to my therapist about that when I was newly sober. And I mention that because the book says to get outside help if you need it, and I needed everything. I still do, like, who are we kidding? But I remember my therapist saying, asking that question, like, I bet you were, were you ever late to like meet your dealer or like to a party that you wanted to like get something, and there's no way, right? And so he said, if you're late to something, it means you don't care about it and you don't respect the other people or person. And I started getting really, really, really good at not being late. I personally prefer being early or on time. Even though I don't like being anywhere, I do not want to be late. It's disrespectful and rude. And the other thing I will say that I learned about sponsoring, and this is something we go over when we first start working together, so the expectations are clearly laid out, which is another thing I was taught right when I got sober, was that the sponsor and sponsee relationship is basically the first relationship where the sponsee learns how to be accountable, honest, showing up, and like learns how to like behave with another person. And I was told that my sponsee, because we met once a week for Big Book, and my sponsor would take me through the book for an hour, and I would do that with all my sponsees. And I was told to write everything down and everything. And she said, you have one freebie when you are no call, no show. If it happens again, get another sponsor. And you can never be more than 10 or 15 minutes late. I can't remember which one she said, reminding me that she had a life. It also gave me, as a sponsor, the freedom, of not having to walk around resentful that I just wasted a whole hour. In fact, I just gained 45 minutes of free time that I had allotted for this sponsee who didn't show up, because I get to leave after 15 minutes. I'll do a 10 step after that because I'm probably resentful that they didn't show up or call. And it also makes it so we don't set this scenario up where the sponsee believes it's just okay, because it's not. And it's also extra uncomfortable to have that conversation with another person, to be like, yeah, it's not okay to be late. And most likely, if you're sponsoring and you're having to have that conversation, you're probably the first person that's ever had to truly say that to the other person. And it's not a yummy one. Our time is up. I promised I would be very brief about our 30 minutes. Thank you for being here. I'll see you next week.